Kwame Brown bust life. So, for those not familiar, Kwame Brown was a former number one pick for the Washington Wizards, drafted by Michael Jordan. He copped a lot of shit in his career. Some people would say rightfully so. Some people would say a bit harsh. Some people would say it goes to the territory of being number one. But I will say he never made a peep about it throughout his playing career. 12 years, you didn't hear a word out of him. He still had a respectable career. I mean, okay, maybe not for a number one pick, but still had a very, very good career. Was a very, very good defender on the block. Had some seasons where he was better than others, obviously. Had moved around a fair bit, but he has had enough. He has had enough. The story goes something like this. He heard on I believe it's the All the Smoke podcast, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. I played with Steven Jackson in Milwaukee, obviously. They have a little podcast. They were going back and forth, and somehow Kwame Brown's name came up about the trade that was made for Pau Gasol back in the day, and Matt Barnes made some sort of comment like it was only Marc Gasol in that trade. There was no one else when Kwame was in that trade, and he didn't take too lightly to that. He jumped on his Instagram Live and his YouTube. They're all uploaded on his YouTube, so I recommend you go there. Kwame Brown Bust Life is the name of the YouTube channel.
So fucking good.
And he has gone, like we call ourselves, call this podcast Rogue Bogues. If we're Rogue Bogues, I mean, that guy is machine gun Rogue Brown. I mean, he has not forgotten about anyone. Matt Barnes is now referred to Becky with the good hair. Steven Jackson, fake social activist gangster was the name he gave him. Fake Black Lives Matter activist, all that stuff. He's gone at Rachel Nichols. He's gone at Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Charlemagne the God, who I don't really know who is, runs a podcast, a radio show called the Breakfast Club, and absolutely destroyed him. Charlemagne the God got personal with his family, and that's gone back and forth. Jameel Hill. I mean, we had to do some research and make sure we weren't too harsh on Kwame at all in our podcast, and I think we're okay.
Oh yeah, that fucking Sprite joke. Don't think I wasn't fucking.
It was a joke, Kwame. So if you listen to this, bro, we're having a laugh about it. But I'm going to say I like it. I like this. I mean, there is a bit of profanity laced in what he's saying, but shit, our podcast has that every other minute, so I can't judge too much. But I think he's finally biting back, and he's telling his story and speaking his truth. And he may not say it the way you want to hear it, but he's making a lot of valid points. I can tell you. I mean, people complained about him using derogatory language. He then mentions, well, why can't my daughter listen to a rap song about doing drugs and, hoes and all that kind of stuff? Very valid point. He makes a valid point about he's an 18-year-old kid coming from high school, goes to the Washington Wizards, Michael Jordan. Yeah, he felt, fish out of water and struggled to adapt, and was playing for one of the best player of all time, who was an imposing figure at the best of times, especially in that front office role. Even though he was playing at the time, he was essentially the GM. So he has some very valid points. The videos, they waffle on a little bit now. They go an hour and a half, 2 hours, but he is just absolutely shitting on anyone in his path. There are some things that he said that people could deem offensive, but I'll tell you what, he's all about equality, because he's shitting on anyone, whether you're black, white, Asian, straight, whatever community you're part of. If you've said anything about this man, he's coming after you, and it's actually been pretty funny to watch, bro.
Yeah, Bogues, look, Kwame Brown, he's been in the butt of a lot of jokes, obviously, right? I saw the kid play in high school at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It was one of the best AAU tournaments in the country. And this is like of his junior year, like May of his junior year, and he was a really good player. I think he won MVP of the tournament or all tournament, whatever have you. He's a hell of a player. But, look, he got drafted number 1. And when you drafted number 1, if he was drafted number 5, nobody would give a fuck about his numbers. And you'd hear a little bit of the bus talk, but they're not going to really hit it. When you're the number 1 pick and you average like 6 and 6 for your career, the number 1 pick, like, of course you're going to have scrutiny. Of course they're going to bust your balls about it. Look, he had short arms. First of all, he was an explosive player. He had size. He was a good rebounder. The problem with him was, he was a McDonald's All-American, one of the best players in the country, but he had short arms, small hands, and he couldn't shoot. So he would have been limited. It didn't matter what situation he was in. He was in Washington, where they were trying to win playoff games. You had a veteran crew. You had Michael Jordan, who was really hard to play with as a rookie that sort of needs a little nurturing, right? And look, I think it's great to play with someone like that to toughen you up. But when you're a high school kid and you're trying to make it, you've never been in the pros before, you had no experience except playing in high school. Like if he played for the Clippers back then, or he played for a team that was just bad team. And, I think he could have been like a 15-8 kind of guy. I don't think he'd ever be a star, but he could have been like a 15-8, but he didn't. And just like if you watch Goodfellas, when they were going to burn that when they're going to burn that restaurant down, oh, you don't have the money to pay the rent? Fuck you, pay me. Oh, somebody died in your family? Fuck you, pay me. Like nobody cares, unfortunately, like that you didn't go to the right team or you didn't get the right development or what have you. And you were in the number one pick and you're going to get scrutiny out of that. So, you listen to him talk. Look, I'm never going to tell somebody how to feel. I always say that on the podcast. I mean it. He could feel however the fuck he wants to feel about whoever's telling him, talking shit about him. He could not react. He could fucking go at him hard. However the fuck he wants to do it, he did it. It's fucking entertaining as shit listening to him. Like, I go on almost every one of his fucking YouTube lives. It is funnier than shit. And I'm telling you this, if you think I'm fucking bad with your 10-year-old kid, I'm telling you, the fucking government will take your kids away from you if you have them listen to the shit he does. Yeah. He says the N-word so many times. Cat Williams is fucking, and Richard Pryor, God rest his soul, are fucking, they're jealous of this kid. He's not a huge fan of white people. He fucking just explodes on everybody. He equally, just goes at everybody. So it's not like one person, the other. Like, look, he's been the butt of everybody's jokes and he hasn't said shit. And now he's the guy coming back firing. And some of the stuff is a little far-fetched that he says, but a lot of it makes some sense. I don't like the whole white thing, white, black, anything. Like, he's big into that. He's big into all the white people you work for. And he just gets a little bit too much on that. But look, he's got fucking axe to grind. Like you talk shit about him, it just goes to show you, Bogues. Like, if you write something, hey, look, if we say something and somebody doesn't like it, come at us. It is what it is. It's not, we don't mean anything bad by it. We just talk the way we talk. Now, he says the thing about it that I don't sort of agree with is well, all these talk shows are waiting for black males to fail. And you're talking about black male. It's everybody. Ryan Leaf, the big time football player that fucking, he gets fucking attacked. Everybody gets attacked. They talk shit about everybody. But sometimes, hey, look, somebody fucking doesn't like it, they can go at it. And now he's got a platform. That day he started with 3,000 YouTube followers. He's up to 120,000. I mean, people are listening and giving him fucking money. Bogues, yeah. I was on a 14-minute fucking YouTube. People are donating money. The fucking guy makes $1,000 a fucking a YouTube session minimum. Fucking great. What do you think about it, Bogues, though?
I mean, I like it. Like I said, I mean, I might not agree with everything he says, but he's speaking his truth. And I think, yeah, look, I was a number one pick, so I don't see myself as a bust. I don't see myself as a star. I think I was, an above average NBA player. Did I live up to the number one pick? If I'm being honest, probably not. Did I deserve to go number one at that time? Fuck yeah, I did. I dominated college for a year, and freshman year was still pretty good. And, there were some circumstances that changed in my career with injury and whatever, and that's just something I had to adapt to. But, I was 16-10 in my peak year and getting better, and then I had to adapt my game. That was just how it goes. But I cop shit for that, and I still do to this day. But I think Kwame, I would agree with him. I think Stephen A. Smith early on went a little crazy hard on him. And when Stephen A. Smith became a meme about talking about Kwame Brown in that infamous trade with the Lakers. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube it. When he got traded in that Pau Gasol deal, it was getting borderline disrespectful. And they're paid to do that. They're paid to make headlines and clickbait, but it continued on after that. And it has been a running joke. And to Kwame's credit, he's been quiet. He hasn't said anything about it. Everyone I know that's played with him hasn't said a bad word about him. He would do whatever you asked. He would always have your back. By all reports, he can kick the absolute shit out of 5 people at once. An absolute animal when it comes to fighting. Yeah. So the guy you definitely don't want to mess with. So I think he's speaking some truth there with his mama's cooking and my mama's son speak as a guy I wouldn't want to mess with. But I respect the fact that he is himself. Look, he says some things that are deemed inappropriate today, but that's him. He's not trying to sugarcoat. He's not working for a boss that's telling him what to say. He's like, this is me. This is what I think. You wanted to poke the bear, and I will say it's not as funny for some of these guys now. The rabbit's got the gun, and I don't tune into Stephen Jackson's podcast or Matt Barnes, or I don't watch Rachel Nichols. I don't watch any of that stuff. That's something I don't tune into. But if he feels like they're being hard on him and he wants to go at him, by all means. And I believe he's now received a cease and desist letter from a lawyer. So he's ruffling some feathers. My advice to anyone else: did you see the Richard Jefferson video on? I think I tweeted it.
Oh yeah.
So they're asking
RJ saying no, I got nothing to say.
Yeah, Rachel Nichols, Matt Barnes, and RJ on the ESPN Talking Heads show, whatever the hell that's called. Nichols goes to Matt Barnes and he's acting like, I don't know why he's so mad. It's not my fault. I didn't pick him number one. Blah 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 blah. Rachel then goes to Richard. He's like, yep, I got nothing. And smartest man in the world.
No doubt.
He had nothing. And he knew he's probably got some baggage there that Kwame knows about somehow. And he's like, I'm good. I love you, Kwame. Let's move on.
They got, Bogues, like back in the day, look, reporters could say whatever the fuck they want on players. Hey, look, a lot of time it's accurate. A lot of times they just evaluate you. And like, he's mad that like they go off on people and they talk about players and it's a negative light. Let's be honest. If there wasn't any negative talk about players, white, black, red, brown, yellow, any player, like there'd be no fucking sports media. That's what sports media, like, it's all about drama. It's all about backdoor stuff. It's all about like who's getting traded, the shit that goes on in the walk. Like that's what they want to hear. That's what people tune in for. So yeah, like I understand that sometimes it's it's unwarranted and it's a little unfair at times. But that's just the world we live in. But back in the day, reporters and these sports talk show hosts could say whatever they want. And there's no repercussion because the player really can't get to him. They didn't have that platform. Maybe if they bumped into him in the locker room and after the game, they'd have some words. But now you can hop on YouTube, hop on your Instagram live, talk to your shit. But I'll tell you what, like, yeah, the guy sounds a little crazy, but he makes points. And he's fucking, he's funnier than shit. He don't care. Like, he don't care who it is. Like, I don't think he's crazy. I don't think he's I don't think he's just, it's his turn to talk and let him say whatever he says. He doesn't make sense on everything that he says. It's like he threatens Stephen A. Smith to slap him on the side of the head, and then he'll go back like an hour later saying, "I'm not violent. I don't say anything that's violent," or so he will go back and forth, and he will sort of go both sides of it. But like, fuck it. This is what everybody asked for in 2022. Player empowerment, social media. You could have your own platform. It doesn't matter who you are, and he goes at you. And yeah, fuck it, mate. Hopefully it gets a little repetitive at times with him attacking people, or just saying whatever he's saying. I hope he could stick with other stuff and continue to this like energy doing other stuff and, and keeping people like motivated to go to his like page and stuff. I'll tell you what though, the money thing is unbelievable. I was sitting there and I see like John A, $15. John, Sarah Q, $199. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
We're doing it wrong.
Like,
we
literally,
we need to do our pod live. We'll probably get
we're doing
minus
this wrong.
$200. We'll get minus $200.
Yeah. I'll give you $500 to stop. Yeah, they'll give us $10,000 a week to fucking stop. But
Kwame has some points though with some things that really resonated with me was where he makes some points about why are we idolizing people that rap about being gangsters and rap about drugs or even sing. It doesn't have to be rap. It can be modern day pop. You go to a Billboard 100 song and listen to the lyrics of some of these songs, whether they're pop, hip hop, rap, whatever it is, they're not the best messaging for young kids. And the kids get caught by the beat and the music of this and singing along. A lot of times the kids don't even know what the hell they're singing about, but you're glorifying things that are not good for a community of any sort. So I agree with him on that totally. The other thing I'll say is with Kwame, I didn't know his backstory, man. And he makes a very valid point of if I'm a bust, well shit. For those that don't know, he grew up very, very rough, very, very rough. Father went to jail, Numerous family members have gone to jail. I believe his mother's still alive. I'm not too sure about that, but raised by a single mother. He mentions on his own video, he basically lived in a trap house, which is a crack house essentially. Police would come and raid the whole house and have him in handcuffs for 3 or 4 hours, destroy everything they had in the home, turn it upside down, and then just leave with his mum, and he'd be stuck there by himself. For him to succeed and become a number one pick, he has a good message there. Like if I can do it and I haven't made an excuse, which he's hit on his YouTube channel, I think that's a story that should be told as well. Like we don't really hear about Kwame's story of his upbringing. I think he's hit it out of the park if that's true, that he's had that rough of an upbringing. So I would agree with him. Okay, he didn't live up to the number one pick, but he's 12 years in the league, made 60, 70, 50, whatever he made, $1 million. I think that's a real success story that more people need to hear.
Yeah. And that's the problem, Bogues, right? Like, most of this shit's fake. And again, nobody gives a fuck. Like, if you make it, if Kwame was 20-20, they would love him. They would love him. And they would treat him like a king. And because he didn't make it, he made it, but because he wasn't a star, he was a butt of everybody's jokes. Nobody really bothered to get his story. Look, I probably said Kwame Brown jokes, no doubt about it, in my time. But like being a bust as far as a first pick, because again, that first pick stigma. But like nobody talked to him. Nobody talked to him. And sometimes it's a rough business in the pros because, like, again, if you've been around this, I've been around this. I've had assistant coaches that loved fucking players, worked them out 8 times a fucking day. Then they get out of the lineup and somebody else gets in the lineup. They fucking ghost that kid. Yep. I've seen that happen 1,000,000 times. And I guarantee that shit happened to him. They're like these young kids that get mistreated. And look, I don't feel all that bad for the kid. He's an NBA pro. It just didn't happen for him, but he made $65 million. He figured out how to make it. He's a good kid. I spent a couple of months with him in Chicago working with him. I loved my time with him. Didn't say much. He was a little introverted, smiled a lot, did whatever you asked him to do. But like when those guys don't make it and they're not stars right off the bat, especially at the first pick in the draft, look at Darko Milicic and look at some of these other guys like that went top 3, top 4, supposed to be a stud and just didn't make it, right? Like then the coaches stop working with them as much. They become a butt of everybody's joke. No one really takes them serious. They're like those ASPCA dogs when you hear Sarah McLachlan playing on those fucking commercials. They're that's how they're treated. And then they go the rest of their career and they're sort of in a downward spiral as far as what they can do. Like I said, I think he could have been 15-8. If you took him by the hand a little bit, hey, look, not every player needs to be taken by the hand. But some players do, especially an 18-year-old kid that just got drafted who only played high school down in Georgia. You gotta talk to that kid every day. You gotta encourage him. He's gonna have those bad nights, and then you're gonna encourage that. Look, they were looking for a playoff spot. MJ, look, he only had a couple of years to play. MJ wanted to maximize those years, so he wanted to win, and he's a competitive dude. He's not gonna wait for a guy like that to develop. Doug Collins wasn't gonna develop a young kid who's the coach. They were ready to try to win and get to the playoffs. And look, that again, it's the pro basketball. All these high school kids, I don't care if young kids in Australia want to play in the NBL. All these people love you. But when you get to the league or whatever league you're going to be in, it's either you're going to make it or you're not. And no one cares how you make it and no one cares how you don't make it. They just look at your stats, look at what you did in your career, and they judge you on that. And people are going to love you and try to help you if you're good. But if you start flatlining a little bit and struggling, there's going to be all those people that wanted to help you. They'll ghost you in 2 fucking seconds. And then this is what's going to happen. Hey, look, the guy's done well with his life. He made money. He's trying to give back to his community, whatever. Again, we don't know a lot about him. I wish we did hear the story. I wish we did hear his story. But hey, look, it is what it is. He's hot right now.
Don't stop. It's definitely entertaining. I mean, maybe shorten the videos. I don't have an hour and a half to get through all the good bits, but it's entertaining.
I love when he laughs at himself. Oh,
it's awesome. It is awesome. And one thing I will say about what you've said about those assistant coaches. Now, I've been involved with. There was a notorious assistant coach that I've worked with over my career. We both know who it is. He shall remain nameless, and he would move from player to player until he found. Basically was their rebounding coach or workout guy, and somehow he would just
he passed him the ball. I know the guy. He passed the fucking
you
ball.
Know what I'm saying,
he doesn't say
he started off when he first got to a certain team. He started off with just trying to figure out who was the guy on the team, and then lashed himself onto the two superstars, and he's kept his job ever since, and gets probably some credit that he probably shouldn't get. But that's the, like you said, that's the industry. I know he was working with some players that didn't pan out too well or weren't playing too well, and then all of a sudden I come to the gym one day and he's no longer rebounding for them, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'll just make a mental note of that, and all of a sudden he's rebounding for that guy who's playing the bulk of the minutes and getting the most of the shots. Shocker. But that is the brutal reality of the NBA.